Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, today's first story comes from a throwaway account from the Relationship Advice subreddit and says, my 35 male, SO 37 female, is a Reddit troll. I'm absolutely dumbfounded on what to do. I came home from work today and noticed my partner just sitting at the desk laughing to herself with her headphones on, so I assumed she was watching a movie or something and left it at that. Not long after I poked my head round, I was going to ask her what she wanted for dinner, and to my surprise, she was on Reddit, which was odd to me because she is anti-social media, etc. But I thought it was nice she was trying something as she suffers from agoraphobia and doesn't get out much without me. I briefly got a glimpse at her name and thought it'd be interesting to see what she has posted. Yes, I know this was an invasion of privacy, and to my shock, the account was 8 years old. This means it predated our relationship by a couple of years. What's even more shocking was the stuff she had said on there. So much hate towards random people for seemingly no reason at all. This was not just one comment here and there either, literally just an account dedicated to hating on people, and she seemed proud of it in her comments. One recent example was she spent an entire day just hassling someone. It doesn't even stop there because she will make up stories, fat shame people, bullying those with disabilities. This one hurts as she knows I have autism and claims everyone who tell her she needs is projecting. I would sometimes come back from work and she'd be in a bad mood but wouldn't tell me why. Upon looking at her comment history, a lot of her bad moods seemed to line up with days she got downvoted a lot. She even goes as far as to lie about her physical appearance just to bring down others. It's sick. How do I even approach this? This stuff is just downright hateful and I don't want her to freak out at me. What do I even do? I'm scared she is just one argument away from someone coming to find her. I feel like when people do this sort of stuff on troll accounts, it shows a lot about their character and who they actually are. And I'm not trying to make the post about me, just trying to relate as I sometimes do with these stories, because I've seen this time and time again. You know, I've been emailed all sorts of different things in the past, which you may have seen about my father who passed away. I've been sent a picture of my house, so they're just showing that they know where I live. I've been called a see you next Tuesday, people trying to bait me to say certain things. And you sit there wondering that there's these people out there trying to do this sort of shit, bully others, pick on others, be horrid to others. This is their life. They're sat there behind this computer taking joy out of that. Is wild to me. I mean, it shouldn't be because there's people like in real life that just as toxic. But if I discovered this about a partner, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be able to look past it because that would play on my mind. And, you know, I'm not saying OP should do this, but for my peace of mind, if I was in this situation, because I'm not someone who can let things lie, because I'd always be thinking, I'd want to know what the hell is going through her mind. I would have to ask, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? But Marauder says this is the person you were dating. This is how she behaves when there are no consequences of her actions. She is not a kind person. Rounders in Knickers says, what do you think about having a partner who secretly likes to be cruel to others and thinks it's funny? Only you can answer that. Successful says agreed, and the fact that her entire day/mood can be ruined just because she gets downvotes is concerning and extremely unhealthy. I mean, if you need that level of validation for your self-esteem from internet strangers, I think that some therapy appointments are desperately needed. Ad replies and says, especially when coupled with the fact that she's a troll, like, I feel kind of bad for 2 seconds if I get downvoted when I talk about something personal, but then I have the option of deleting it or ignoring it and going on with my life. If I knew I was writing something controversial, why would the downvotes bother me? So she likes to be deliberately antagonistic, but then the fallout can ruin her mood. So strange. A user says catfish her and then cry at the dinner table over the ableist Redditor who ruined your self-esteem. Hope to find this on Bora in a few weeks. Now, I'm not saying OP should do that, but that would be interesting. KMF says, I find it so pathetic that she's agoraphobic, which implies she has anxiety around social interactions, being humiliated, etc. But she's being cruel to others online, and that definitely affects her anxiety and mental health. This is a shitty person. and I'd cut my losses, to be honest. And a final comment from Public Pool, who says kinda creepy that she has kept this a big secret for so long. It's also strange that she is capable of being mean to total strangers and enjoys belittling others without you having a clue. She sounds like she has some unaddressed mental health issues. That old saying, mean people suck, is still true. So OP comes in with her update and says, I had a lot of message requests asking if the post was about them. If you thought that then, I think it's time to stop your crappy behavior. I want to address some comments from the last post. I'm pretty sure she is blocked from this subreddit as all of her comments on this sub were removed according to a remove Reddit site. And I also blocked her account while slightly adjusting the ages. After sitting for a good hour last night looking down her profile in depth and bookmarking her worst stuff, I decided to bring it up with her. I was going to ask a mutual friend round, but I didn't want to embarrass her, so I instead put my phone and record in my pocket, in case she was going to claim I did anything against her. I waited until after lunch and asked her if she could just stay there for a minute, set my phone to record and then brought up screenshots on the tablet. Her face dropped. She walked out the room after a few seconds of scrolling. I was going to go after her, but I left it. She came down and just said sorry. I asked why she was saying sorry to me, to which she responded, I don't know. I asked why she did it and I just got another, I don't know. I showed her one of the screenshots where she claims, my friends love how much of a see you next Tuesday I am online. I asked if any of her friends knew, and she said no, just me. I brought up the fact that I couldn't wrap my head around why someone would dedicate so much time to this, and she said at first it was just a way to blow off steam, but then it felt nice because I saw people were agreeing with me, and it became a part of my daily routine, I guess. After some more talking, I addressed how much she hurt me with her attacks on people with mental health problems, to which she just said, I doubt they even had any issues, they were just playing victim because they were losing the argument. I have packed my things and going to stay at a friend's house. I'm going to block Reddit on the internet service provider and asked her to not contact me for a couple of days while I think. I have also asked her to find a place to stay, as I can't stay at my mate's for too long and I want to go on a break. If I'm honest, I don't know if I ever want to see her again. I was going to ask her to apologize to everyone she caused shit for, but at this point, I know she won't mean it. Any further updates will be done via this post. The top comments on this one says, the fact that you felt the need to record this conversation in your phone makes me feel like this is not a healthy relationship, regardless of the Reddit trolling. A Year of Storm says, judge people by how they treat those they can hurt with impunity. She's an online bully, cruel to people when she is anonymous, and there are no consequences. You are making the right decision. Okie dokie says, yep, your character is how you behave when people aren't looking. I think being anonymous online is the same thing. And I couldn't see this ending any other way, to be quite honest, out of that situation, sort of good riddance, because even after all this and he confronted her on it, she says, I doubt they even had any issues, they were just playing the victim. It says all I need to know really, but what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now, before we do get into our next story, I do want to give you a warning. There is talking of death of a child. So if you do want to skip the story, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. Thank you. This was from a throwaway account who says, am I the arsehole for overreacting to the true fate of my little sister's remains? My mother and father divorced when I was young. They had an oops baby together after my mum remarried, which rocked that marriage apart. That oops baby was my little sister. She died abruptly in an accident 4 years ago at only 14. You know how people say the firsts after death are the hardest? They don't account for when there's no first to be had. When they should have been getting ready for prom but never will. It's a completely different pain. My mum and I were talking about it. We were both drinking and she slipped that my bit of ashes I carry that I thought were my sister's were just regular ashes. Burnt wood. She already poured out my sister's ashes without me or my brother in the plot she bought with my stepdad. She couldn't fathom my rage because to her, the sentiment and emotions are the important aspects, not as physically my sister. My anger is prompted by the lies and the fact that those sentiments and emotions are attached to something, not my little sister. I had no idea she cast her ashes on a plot she wouldn't have cared about. I screamed at her to get out of my house, locking the door behind her and calling up my stepdad to pick her up. I threw the necklace out the window to the front lawn, then regretted it and tore it out of her hands when she picked it up. As she would say it, I made a scene and embarrassed her. I kept screaming and calling her a liar whenever she tried to explain herself or get back inside. I was threatening to call the cops on her when my stepdad finally showed up and took her away. He called me the next day and left a message saying that he wanted to talk about what happened and how he understands why I'm angry and hurt. He just wants to talk. But I need to talk to my mother too about this because she's a grieving mother. Emphasis his. And my sister's death was a huge blow to the entire family, and everyone is trying to regain our bearings still, so some kindness is needed. All I can think of right now is my mum's heartbroken face as I rip my necklace with my sister's ashes out of her hands, or the way she turned away from me crying as my stepdad ushered her into the car. I called her names, I let my pain and rage take over me, but I can't get over the lies. 4 years of thinking my necklace had my sister, of thinking she was right by my heart, and it all came undone because my mum had too much to drink. How long would she have let me think this? How long would the lie continue? And firstly, I want to say I'm incredibly sorry for your loss, OP, but I was like, what? Why did your mum say this in the first place? I know you said drink, but what was going through her mind to drop this? That seems like such a weird thing to bring up like that. I mean, surely it wasn't as meant in jest, like, oh, you know, that necklace around your neck, because that's not funny, is it? It's just, why would you say that? Center of Chaos says, yeah, your mother is grieving, but you, her very living child, are too. Having your mother lie to you about something important is going to get an emotional reaction. What you did is up to you, but I wouldn't let her frame this as embarrassing her or that she's a victim in any way. She lied about it. She got drunk and tattled on herself. These are the consequences of her own actions. The Arse Crack Bandit replies to that and says the mum thought that there was going to be a cute little anecdote. What the fuck kind of person does that kind of stuff? Casually just drops a bomb. OP responded saying it was an absolute mistake on her part that she even said it. We were talking about prom season and how hard it can be to be reminded of things that my sister would have loved. Then she started to say, I start crying before I even reach the cemetery sometimes. And she named it by name. I started flipping then and I was like, what cemetery? Why that cemetery? In a sort of, why are we talking about cemeteries when we were talking about her way? I kept pushing her for an explanation, and that's when the whole thing came out. And it also raised more questions for me as well, like how did the mum go about the whole ashes thing, the burnt wood which OP received? There's a thought process behind that before you do it. I know grief does crazy things to people. Absolutely, but at the same time, you have to think about this, that I'm going to go and burn some wood to give it to OP as ashes. That's wild. So OP came in with her first update and says, I gave my mother an ultimatum of either telling my brother and father or I will. She refused to because you reacted so horribly. And she told me not to tell because you're doing this to hurt me and you're just going to hurt them. So I told them. I sat my dad and brother down and explained that the necklaces didn't have the right ashes in them. I've never seen my dad break like that, and I've never heard my brother scream at me like that. He was angry that I knew before him and didn't immediately tell because this is the shit you tell me. You needed to tell me. We tell each other everything. But he then started crying and apologizing to me, admitting that he's just so mad about what mum did and he can't handle it. So I guess that's clearly something else me and my brother share. Get overwhelmed initially before cooler heads prevail. My dad looked gutted, but he was clearly trying to piece himself back together. He said a lot of the same other people had said to me on my other post. We can get some of the dirt from the plot where she was scattered. The necklace has the meaning we attribute to it, and she's still with us, even if her body hasn't been physically with us. I feel bad because some of it my mum said, i.e. the bit about the necklace being important even without her ashes in it, but I was able to accept that much easier from him. Maybe because he didn't lie to me for 4 years and drop a bomb on me out of nowhere because I pulled apart a lie. He held my brother and I as we cried, and he apologized for the pain. He said it wasn't fair that I had to be the adult when my mother should have told all of us a lot sooner. Dad's going to try and talk to my stepfather to find a plot because my mum has been refusing to talk to us anymore, not answering messages or picking up the phone. The social media has even gone dark. He's going to find out where the plot is and go to the site. I don't know if I could if it were up to me. It just feels like the final bit of proof that this fucked up nightmare is real, and my sister is mixed with dirt and rocks and grass of an unmaintained and unvisited plot. My mum and I always had some issues, but that's normal. This is worse than anything, and we had a rough patch when I came out that we didn't even talk, but we mended fences after. I can't see ever forgiving her. Not with how she dropped this on me, blamed me for my reaction and left me to do what she should have done. To top it off, she won't even show the decency to explain why or even talk to me. When we were discussing cremation, it was agreed we would all get a necklace with the ashes. My mind keeps going over things that just didn't add up fully. Times she almost slipped, or things that make complete sense now. She almost left behind her necklace on a trip and didn't freak out like I would have, because she knew where my sister was the whole time. She volunteered to be the one to separate the ashes and gave Dad the rest. I assume those ashes are the same as ours. Fake. God, this whole thing just makes me want to curl up in a hole and never see the light of day again. I've been on and off crying all week without being able to stop, or just so angry I could scream. In the middle of my damn workday, and suddenly I'm rushing to the bathroom to hide the fact that I'm breaking all over again because I can't stop my thoughts. I quit smoking after my sister died, but I picked it right back up again. My dad has been calling me every day to check in on me and remind me of how much he loves me and how much my brother loves me. I think he's afraid. My brother has come over each day since the talk with his girlfriend to make sure I eat something. I don't know how to end this post. I feel lost, like I don't know anything anymore. I feel like a burden because my dad and brother are both dealing with a revelation too, but they're clearly thinking of me and checking in on me. I'm going to look into grief counseling, but the therapist I saw after my sister died isn't practicing anymore, and my insurance isn't accepting a lot of therapists. I try to remind myself that my little sister wouldn't have minded so much becoming woven in a tapestry of grass and flowers, and that I can visit her once we know where she was cast and make sure her sight is always beautiful. Thank you to everyone who helped me and shared their own perspectives and stories. I really appreciate it. Someone says to OP, you mentioned she said the cemetery's name when she tattled on herself. Can you call and ask about the plot? It's probably under your mother's or your sister's name. Then you can visit and not have to go through your mother at all. OP says, it's my mother and stepfather's plot. If trying through my stepfather fails, I'll try that. I didn't think I could just call up and say, is there an empty plot section for the so-and-so family? But it's worth trying. Family Guy says, I'm ahead of a cemetery commission. Just call them up. We don't care about drama, just information. The best of luck to you. OP says, thank you so much. That means a lot. Then, a month later, OP comes in with another update and says, this has probably been the worst month of my life in years. Sorry to the mod for so many posts. Edits, I tried to find a grave and she's not there. Same for my mother and stepdad. I'm going to start with the minor stuff that's been happening or whatever because my head just feels like a brick. I got a promotion that I've been aiming for before everything. My boss did tell me I'd already got it before all this happened, and it was held off on announcing so I could have time to process before I had to adjust to the new job requirements. I couldn't even feel proud. I know a month ago I would have, but I feel numb. I'm working a lot more hours now than normal, usually about 6 AM to 7 PM give or take. Paychecks look nice, I guess. My dad keeps telling me I need to work less, so does my brother, but my job is one that engages my mind enough that I'm nearly brain dead by the time I'm home, which is nice. I'm non-binary and prefer they/them pronouns, but she and her are not offensive. Realized belatedly that people were calling me that. I started drinking more than usual. After blacking out one night, I let my dad take it all and I haven't bought more. I don't think I've ever gotten blackout before, so it's terrifying to hear about the night, but barely have any recollection of it. About my sister, my mother finally responded to my brother, and according to him, she was a wreck. All tears, all apologies, all you have to understand. There must be something wrong with me because I look at her and I want to hurt her. I want to break her heart. I want to make a spectacle of her disgusting behavior. I want to ruin her life. I think part of me recognizes that's why I'm not so overly cautious about details, but at the same time I can't do it. The rational part of my mind kicks in and I realize that it wouldn't do anything but make it worse. I just feel guilty and sick after the brief moment of satisfaction. But then I think to myself, so how and why could you do that to us? For years. Her and my brother had a much better relationship than her and I ever did. She still did that to him. Like, yeah, Dad and he never got better after the divorce, and after the affair they struggled with even co-parenting for a multitude of reasons. Her and I have had our issues, but the bond between her and my brother has always been strong, or at least it used to be. And she did it to him, of all people. She tried telling my brother that she did it impulsively, in a fit of pique, but when he pressured her about why she was the one volunteer to handle filling the necklaces, she said that it was because she was okay with it at first, but then when she saw the ashes, she didn't want to destroy her further. Her word there, destroyed. Like the relationship between her living children, like our trust in her, like the memorial we agreed upon for my sister. I didn't know how to feel, if I even trust her story, but her wording makes me feel like it was planned. God, yet again, it becomes an accidental revelation, where she tried to uphold a lie but got caught, and that's how the truth came to light. I managed to talk to the funeral director. My sister's fingerprints are part of their records. I'm going to get her touch tattooed, but I found a means of getting that on a necklace so my brother and dad can have that if they don't want a tattoo. Still struggling to get in contact with the owners of the cemetery. A lot of unanswered emails and voicemails. I've also been looking for therapists and counselors in my area, or ones doing telehealth. I have an appointment upcoming, but I'm nervous. My stepfather has stepped back. He set a boundary that he won't talk to us until we agree to discuss this without blaming anyone. And anytime the conversation starts going towards asking about motive or who knew what and when, he says the conversation needs to end. He's even hung up on us before and threatened the cops on me, even implying it'd be deserved after I did the same to my mother. A month later, OP updates again and says I wish I could give good news, but there's not been much, and I haven't had much time besides working. I'm just going to keep on doing whatever this is, so long there's not a problem. I went to therapy. I tried a few sessions and I'm so grateful she worked with me to get me on her books. But she wasn't helpful for me. I wasn't clicking with her and I felt unheard. I'm still on the hunt for a therapist. I feel very entitled saying that. My father is not as well as he wants to pretend. He's so focused on fixing this for us that he has lost sight of himself. I hate seeing him like this. My brother is angry. I've never in my life seen him so mad or heard him say such horrific things about our mother and stepfather. We're all just existing, it seems. My brother tried the plot hack idea. The cemetery is full. They're not accepting new burials. I tried as well and couldn't get even the plot numbers. I got so angry I was crying. I didn't take it out on them as it's not the cemetery's fault. I can't manage my emotions, but it was absolutely crushing to come across yet another block. Our mother still won't really talk to me, with one exception event, and even my brother is touch and go in conversation with her. She's so quick to shut everything down. The exception is this. My mother offered to let me purchase the plot from her. She said I can share it with my brother and this way we can be buried together where our sister is. She phrased it like she was giving me some sort of peace offering or paying me a favor. All total costs, the line of the plot, the headstone, the permits, because our state requires one for such sales. The care will be over $9,500. Her and my stepfather are willing to forgo the cost of the headstone to make it easier for my brother and I, to make up for us not being there for the scattering. No mention about how dad wasn't there either. No true sorry, just what amounts to, if you want access to your sister, pay me for the privilege. I want to say she doesn't intend it this way. I want to agree with my stepfather that this is her attempt to reconcile, so I should meet her halfway. I can't keep doing this. I want to put this behind me somehow. I want to forget about the plot. I want to forget about my mother entirely. It feels like it would be easier to completely cut her out, make peace with what I have of my sister, and never, ever think of my mother again. I feel like a horrible child thinking that way. My stepfather's attitude doesn't help that feeling. I tried explaining that I just want some of the dirt from the plot for part of a memorial, but my stepdad started threatening to sell it back to the cemetery because clearly nothing else will satisfy you. My brother and I are in agreement that it's a baseless threat, especially if they really did cast our ashes there, because our mother would never do that and then separate from the plot. We both know, even if we buy it from her, she'll visit our sister still. I can't help the niggling concern that she did something else with the ashes than we think, and what she's let on. Like the cemetery is unrelated and she's somehow clever enough to keep up or think up a convoluted lie when drunk. I keep looking at my bank account. My brother doesn't want to buy it off her, I don't think, but he's also still furious at the offer, so I don't want to say he doesn't. He means well, I think, but anytime I try to broach the offer, he starts in about how we're making our own memorial and that her offer is needlessly cruel, so I shouldn't entertain it. I could afford it if I shuffled some bills around and worked more. Almost for peace of mind, I want to say yes and take the offer. She gave me a deadline. I still have a bit of time, but it doesn't feel like enough. My dad has taken over trying to figure out the legalities of the situation, what he can do to force her hand to share where the plot is, or what he can do to make things better. He's fit to be tied. He's doing what he can, looking into what legal avenues we can pursue and what can be done to force her to give the location. It seems like we don't have many options. It doesn't feel right or fair. He keeps saying what my brother has said, trying to reassure me, but I cannot think of it. I'm not sleeping much these days. I think the only thing going well in my life is my work. I still haven't had anything to drink. I think maybe the next option we can try would be letting the cemetery know ashes were illegally spread on their grounds. But what will they do in response? I know I'm being paranoid or catastrophizing when I fear they'd do something to clean my sister from the plot, or take it away from my mother and I won't be able to access it. So I guess the update is everything as fucked up it has been since that stupid night with my mother. I do want to address the outpouring of support everyone here has given me. It has meant the world to me and given me a place of stability and external perspective where my current life is far too close to provide that. Thank you all. So the top comment on that one said, I'm so sorry. Your mother is awful and you're not going to get closure if you buy the plot from her, because your mother is going to find other ways to torture you. You're not a bad child for wanting to cut off contact with her. If you're a bad child, you feel gleeful about doing it. I don't think your relationship with your mother is salvageable. I think she's a horrible, horrible person for doing this to you and your brother. And yes, she is forcing you to pay for the privilege knowing where she states she scattered the ashes. I don't think she did it there. I think she is seriously mentally ill, and after you purchase it from her, she will come up with another story of what she did with the ashes. I want to tell you something that helped me. I don't know if this will help you, but all matter goes back into the universe. And every breath you take, every gaze at the stars or the sky, you're seeing your sister. Your sister is all around you. Where her ashes are, it's not her. Your mother is forcing you to go through the second loss. But every time you feel that calming breeze, every time you see that twinkling star, every tickle of pollen in your nose, start to think of that as your sister. I'm an atheist, so I'm not trying to say anything paranormal or supernatural. What I'm saying is her matter, the essence of who she was, never left. You cannot destroy matter. She is around you. She's just as around you as carbon and hydrogen and helium and oxygen and all the other elements. I wish all the best for you. Opie responded saying a lot of me recognizes that it is pure symbolism at this point. Maybe even before then. But it aches and I struggle to deal with that. Maybe the next therapist I try will help with that. No requirement says, how did you go about getting the necklaces of a fingerprint made? That's a lovely idea. Have you tried alternatives to getting your hands on some of her remains and dirt? A memorial that is symbolic instead of physical remains. Maybe a butterfly relief. Does your mother know that if she continues on this path, she will lose all her remaining children? Try and take one day at a time and one thing at a time. You need to take care of you too. Opie says the funeral home still hasn't given me her prints yet. I don't want to pressure. Part of me recognizes it's been some weeks, another part of me feels like it was yesterday. And I'm almost frightened to pressure them, because what if they react the way my mother did? The worst part is knowing you're being irrational, but not being able to not be irrational. And all I can say is that my heart really goes out to you, OP, dealing with the grief and then having to deal with your mum's. Fuck knows what's going through her mind at the moment, but having to deal with that at the same time, I can only imagine what you're going through. I like that comment about saying your sister's all around you, and it's something that, again, it's doubtful that it gives you peace of any sort, because we all deal with things in different ways, like I always say. But as I always talk about my mother and father, and I remember one day sitting on the edge of the bed with my mum just talking about, this is when it all came out that she wasn't in good health and she was going to pass away sort of pretty soonish. And we were talking about funeral arrangements and what she would like. You know, it's a tough conversation, but a conversation that needed to be had. It was upsetting at the time. I can talk about it like I am now because it's in the past, right? And she was talking about cremation, just like, where do you where do you want the ashes to go kind of thing. And initially I thought, you know, sort of Weymouth Beach, because that was a place that she absolutely loved. But no, she just wanted it in the cemetery. And her wording basically was, it doesn't matter where she's spread, we'll meet in the wind, is what she always says. And I'm not a very religious person, but I always like the thought in, you know, on a breezy day when you're just going for a walk and listening and you get that breeze in your face, and it does cast back memories, it's got to be said. And I really enjoy that. But anyway, I do wish you all the best going forward. I hope you find some kind of resolution to this in the end for you and your family. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.